Good morning. This is the part 3 of our research. Our means I and Chaco John carried out in the Kariavattom campus property to verify the potential of groundwaters in the campus. This is actually the last part of the three-part series, and to recapitulate the geological setting, I mention about the general architecture, geologic architecture of the campus. The campus as a north division and a southern division. The northern division is actually occupied by Science Block 1, where the plant breeding and genetics department, etc. stands, as well as a water tower. The south campus, from the main gate, there is a straight avenue road going toward the language block. As you go into the avenue road and inside the gate, within 50 meters, there is a crossroad. This crossroad, if you made a right turn or turned northerly, you'll go to another road that now connects the National Highway with the Techno Park and Thrivikramji, etc. All these roads, the Avenue Road main, the link road connecting with the Techno Park Road, all these have been laid down on the ridges of the campus. Obviously, when you have ridges, there will be valleys also. This one valley, which is heading roughly westerly, has at the head of the valley, there is a pond called Kariavattom Pond, which is recently of late very famous within the neighborhood. There is another valley on the northern side of Science Block 1, that is the plant breeding and genetics department, or let us say the north campus, that heads northerly, and finally to reach what I call as the large, long runnel that occurs between the eastern edge of the Holocene coastal land and the National Highway passing through Kariavattom to the CRPF camp. Something about geology. Now, the main campus, the north campus plus the south campus, are actually built on residual laterite with a Precambrian basement. There is a thin veneer of sediments or sedimentary rocks of Workli age sitting what you call as today the guest house or the Vice Chancellor's quarters. And in fact, along the Techno Park National Highway stretch, that Avenue Road, you will see the cross-bedded facies of the sediments of Workli age. And along this road, there is a place called Vaidyan Kunnu. For some reason, there is a water tower. There is, like I said, a water tower in the north campus, and to the east of the science block, one, and a third water tower that is in the small, that is in the main avenue road and near the language block. And all these three water towers were supposed to get water supply, pumped water supply from the bore wells. Two of them, one on the Imavati pond side and the other on the science block 1 to the north side of the science block 1 in the valley. I have, as a geologist, considered all these as structural valleys. And in other words, why structural valleys? Because in those days in 1969 or 70, we were not having the advantage of orbiting satellites, imaging satellites. With the advent of imaging satellite technology, now we are in a position to identify the structural valleys as, or structural ridges as lineaments. Okay, what is then? What is the rest of the area? The Kariavattom coastal land is a low coastal land. I made mention about it earlier in another second episode. There is a high standing ridge and plateau-like area on which the Kariavattom campus is built. This coastal land is very interesting because the coastal land supports in a place somewhere along the north of Kariavattom town, but on the west side of the highway, a pumping well with a water tower done by the Public Health Engineering Department of the Kerala state. And there is actually, those days in 1969, when we inspected that, there was a well log available in that little office that is looking after the pumping, etc. And similarly, and this well actually went, I earlier told it, up to 300 feet below the ground. Whereas the similar well in the village called Atipra those days, that well also went down to up to 300 feet. And to reach laterite and or a basement rock, and supplying, now it is a different phase, water to the town, the small town. And once the so-called engineering college moved over to its location, or what we call CET now, their water supply needs were met by the same well in Atipra. Very strangely, these two wells are dysfunctional now. Well, of course, that is the way it is. Don't worry about it. Now, with this idea in mind, I and Chaco John went over to late V.C. Jacob, who was in charge of the Central Groundwater Board, Kerala unit, and was functioning out of a building that used to exist where now our Thrivikramji district Panchayat office stands. And those days we don't have to make any appointment or anything. We gate crash. Normally, that is what you do. If you find the person, you are lucky. Else you wait for a while, or else you go away, make a second visit. So luckily for us, Mr. B.C. Jacob was there. He saluted him. He's a senior man, very experienced geologist. I know him personally because I used to, right from my BSc days, we were somewhere in the same neighborhood. And then, of course, he greeted us and asked what brought us over to his office. Then Chaco John explained to our Jacob, whatever we did and what was the purpose of whatever we were doing, etc., etc. And then we gave a brief of our inferences on the potential for water. Then, to our surprise, V.C. Jacob told us that he has sighted a well inside of the Thrivikramji titanium factory compound, a large diameter well meeting their water needs for industrial water needs and to some extent drinking water needs within their campus. And this is a large diameter well, 20 plus feet in diameter, plus geologically it had penetrated fossiliferous shale and even something equivalent of Koilon limestone. So he made a suggestion, with this kind of geology in the coastal plain, it may be a wiser idea to locate some suitable place in the Kariavattom coastal lands. We thanked this gentleman profusely, because our inference was also that that is the only way, because we knew there is no water source for a large community of people in Kariavattom campus. So we wrote up the report and finally made a recommendation that Kerala University may take steps to acquire, say, whatever land needed for sinking a well, a large diameter well, on the west side of the embankment connecting Kariavattom town with the dip, or what we called as the so-called the boundary fault, Vaidyan Kund, etc., that massive, that hill. And another thing we recommended about was this well should be covered with a slab, a concrete slab, so that it will not receive any kind of atmospheric deposition, so that without any treatment the water can be made use of. Then we made a suggestion that the well should be of a sufficiently large diameter, and government or a university rather should lay a pipeline connecting this well and pumping mechanism to the main campus at Kariavattom, and naturally link it with the 3 water towers in the campus. And Professor Menon read through this report and finally made a executive summary or whatever as the cover page, and approving our own recommendations. The report was submitted to the Vice Chancellor, Dr. A. Ayyappan, who was immensely pleased by this report, because this is actually what geologists alone can do. No life scientists can do this kind of reporting. Secondly, a surprise happened immediately within 3 or 4 months. The surprise was the central government Home Ministry decided to open up a Central Reserve Police campus in Paripalli. This campus naturally will accommodate at least 1,000 people and families, and they are also in need of water. And based on the suggestion or request of the Government of India, Home Ministry, Kerala State Government decided to link the Trivandrum water supply system with a pipeline to Paripalli. Luckily what happened was we had for Kariavattom campus a connection to Kariavattom campus was given, and of course several places were given. So for some coincidence, our report made a recommendation of locating water in the Kariavattom coastal plains, and it was superseded by the government decision to lay a 12-inch or so steel pipe connecting Thrivikramji water supply to Paripalli with a connection, with a branch to Kariavattom campus. That is the story. It is wonderful to have worked with this kind of issue, a translational research. And we were nascent minds we had actually. Chaco was quite young, under 25, under 30. I was also around 25 those days. Thank you very much.